It's midnight, and you're scrolling through real estate listings. Every single house that doesn't look like it's actively collapsing costs $500,000. The kitchen has laminate countertops from 2003. The carpet is beige, there's fake wood paneling in the basement, and somehow the listing agent has the audacity to call this a starter home. Meanwhile, you're sitting there doing mental math on your salary, wondering if you somehow missed a massive promotion, or if the entire housing market has collectively lost its mind. Spoiler alert, it's not you, it's the math. And the math is absolutely brutal. My name is Max, and today we're going to do something that real estate agents absolutely hate. We're going to calculate who can actually afford a $500,000 house in 2026. Not who the bank will approve for a loan, not who can technically qualify, but who can legitimately afford it without turning their life into a financial stress simulator running 24/7. Because there's a massive, catastrophic difference between qualifying for a mortgage and actually being able to sleep at night after you sign those papers. Let me show you exactly how brutal these numbers really are. Let's start with the uncomfortable reality that nobody wants to talk about. In dozens of US housing markets right now, $500,000 is the baseline. That's not getting you a mansion. That's not getting you lakefront property. That's getting you a 1,200 square foot box with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a yard the size of a beach towel. In cities like Denver, Austin, Seattle, Portland, or anything within commuting distance of a major metro area, $500,000 is what normal people are somehow expected to come up with for normal houses. The median household income in America is around $84,000 per year. So we're asking people making $84,000 to afford homes that cost 6 times their annual income. But everyone keeps saying you can do it, right? The mortgage broker says you're approved. Your parents bought a house on way less income. Some influencer on TikTok is apparently flipping houses with no money down and making millions. So what's the problem? Why does this feel impossible when everyone else is making it work? The problem is that everyone is lying to you about what the word affordable actually means in 2026. And I'm going to prove it with numbers that will make you angry. Let's start with the down payment, because this is where most people's homeownership dreams go to die before they even begin. Let me say that number again so it really sinks in. $100,000 in cash that you need to have saved up. The median savings account balance in America has around $8,000 in it. So you're not just a little bit short. You're $92,000 short. And before you say, well, I'll just save up for it, let's do that math too, because it gets even more depressing. If you're making that median income of $84,000 per year and somehow manage to save 10% of your gross income, which almost nobody actually does because life keeps happening, you're saving $8,400 per year. At that rate, it will take you exactly 12 years to save up the down payment. 12 years. And that's assuming housing prices don't increase at all during those 12 years, which they absolutely will. Meaning you're basically chasing a target that keeps moving further away. Okay, so you give up on the 20% down payment dream. You decide to put down 5% or 10% instead, which is what most people actually do in reality. Congratulations on your pragmatic decision. You just unlocked a brand new monthly expense called PMI, Private Mortgage Insurance. This is the fee you pay every single month for the crime of not being wealthy enough to put 20% down. It's essentially a poverty tax disguised as insurance. And it runs anywhere from $200 to $400 per month, depending on your loan size and credit score. You're paying extra money every month for insurance that protects the bank, not you. They're worried you might default because you don't have enough equity, so they make you pay for their peace of mind. You're starting this journey from a position of financial punishment. Now let's talk about the actual mortgage payment, because this is where the fantasy really crashes into reality. Let's say you manage to save up 10%. which is $50,000 that you somehow scraped together by working 3 jobs and eating ramen for 5 years. That leaves you with a $450,000 loan. At current interest rates, somewhere in the 6% to 7% range, depending on your credit score. Your monthly mortgage payment is going to land around $2,750 to $2,850. That's just principal and interest. That number doesn't include a single other thing you need to actually live in this house, like a functional human being. Let's add property taxes, because the government wants their cut too. Depending on where you live, you're looking at anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000 per year in property taxes. Then there's homeowners insurance, which has absolutely skyrocketed in the past few years, thanks to climate change making everything more expensive and risky to insure. You're looking at another $250 to $350 per month, depending on your location and whether your house happens to be in a flood zone, fire zone, hurricane zone, or tornado alley. Let's call it $300 per month. Then there's maintenance and repairs, the thing everyone completely forgets about until the water heater explodes at 11 p.m. on a Sunday night, and you're standing in 2 inches of water. The general rule is to budget 1% of your home's value per year for maintenance and unexpected repairs. On a $500,000 house, that's $5,000 annually, or about $417 per month that you should be setting aside. And don't forget that PMI we talked about earlier. Because you couldn't afford 20% down, tack on another $300 per month. So let's add this nightmare up. Mortgage payment, $2,850. Property taxes, $500. Homeowners insurance, $300. Maintenance fund, $417. PMI, $300. Here's where it gets really fun. And by fun, I mean soul-crushing. Financial advisors will tell you that you shouldn't spend more than 28% of your gross monthly income on housing costs. Banks will approve you if your total debt-to-income ratio is under 43%. Let's reverse engineer this and see what income you actually need. And now we arrive at the punchline that makes this entire situation a cruel joke. Only about 10% to 20% of US households make $150,000 or more per year, which means approximately 80% of American households cannot comfortably afford a $500,000 house under any reasonable financial standard. This isn't an opinion about lifestyle choices or priorities. This is just mathematics being absolutely merciless. But you're thinking, people are still buying these houses though. I see it happening. Who are all these people? Some of them have dual incomes in high-paying professional fields like tech or finance. Some of them have family money helping with down payments or co-signing loans. Some of them are immigrants, pooling resources across multiple generations, living under one roof. And some of them are stretching themselves so thin financially that one medical emergency or job loss would completely collapse their entire financial life, like a house of cards. Let me show you what this actually looks like when you run the numbers on a real household trying to make this work. We'll call them the Johnsons. 2 working professionals with a combined household income of $160,000 per year. That puts them well above the median income, solidly in the upper middle class by most definitions. They should be comfortable, right? They're doing everything society told them to do. Let's watch what happens when the Johnsons buy that $500,000 house. First, their gross income of $160,000 sounds really impressive, until the IRS shows up to the party. That's their actual money to live on. Now subtract that $4,367 monthly housing cost we calculated. They're left with $5,133 for literally everything else in their lives. 2 car payments because they both need to commute to work, $800. Car insurance for 2 vehicles, $250. Gasoline, because absolutely nothing is walkable in suburbia, $300. Student loan payments, because they needed those degrees to get the jobs that qualified them for this mortgage in the first place, $600. Health insurance premiums that their employers don't fully cover, $400. Groceries for a family trying to eat reasonably healthy food, $800 if they're being careful and clipping coupons. Utilities for that bigger house, electricity, water, gas, internet, cell phones, $450. We're now down to $1,533 remaining. And we haven't touched clothing, kids' activities if they have children, car repairs when something inevitably breaks, medical copays, dental work, the psychological need to occasionally leave the house and pretend you have a life, or saving for emergencies and retirement beyond that tiny 401k contribution. This household is spending 46% of their take-home pay on housing, not 28%. Not even 35%. Nearly half of everything they earn goes to keeping a roof over their heads. And these aren't irresponsible people making terrible decisions. They're not buying jet skis or taking European vacations. They're just trying to live in a house that the market tells them is normal and appropriate for people with their income level. Here's what that actually feels like day to day. Because the numbers on paper don't capture the psychological torture. It feels like checking your bank account balance before buying groceries, doing mental calculations about whether you can afford the name brand cereal this week. It feels like saying no when your kid's school asks for $35 for a field trip because that money might be needed if the check engine light comes on. It feels like lying awake at 2 a.m. doing anxiety-driven mental math about whether you can afford new tires this month or if you need to push it to next month and just pray really hard that it doesn't rain too much. It feels like being one unexpected expense away from financial disaster at all times. The HVAC system breaks in July when it's 95 degrees outside. That's $5,000 you don't have sitting in the bank. Someone rear-ends you at a stoplight and your insurance deductible is $1,000. You're putting it on a credit card and paying 23% interest. Your kid needs braces because their teeth are crooked. You're financing dental work like it's a car purchase, spreading payments over 24 months. This is the actual reality for households earning $160,000 trying to own a $500,000 home. Now imagine what it looks like for households making $120,000 or $100,000 or, God forbid, the actual median income of $84,000. At median income, buying a $500,000 house isn't tight budgeting. It's not even aggressive stretching. It's complete financial fantasy. It's mathematically impossible without either massive external help from family wealth or accepting a level of risk that would make a professional skydiver nervous. But here's what makes the situation truly evil and insidious. The housing market doesn't care about any of these numbers. Sellers list homes at $500,000 because that's what comparable houses in the neighborhood sold for last month. Banks approve buyers at 43% debt-to-income ratios because, technically, statistically, the loan probably won't default immediately. Real estate agents encourage buyers to stretch their budgets as far as possible because their commission is based on the sale price, and they get paid when the deal closes, not when you're still financially stable 5 years later. Nobody involved in this transaction has any financial incentive to tell you that you're about to drown yourself. The system is explicitly designed to get you into the house and get the sale completed, not to ensure you can comfortably afford it for the next 30 years. And once you're in, once you've signed those documents and moved all your furniture and changed your address, you're completely trapped. You can't just decide 6 months later that this was a huge mistake and walk away without destroying your credit score and losing your entire down payment plus all the closing costs. So people stay. They stay in homes they can't actually afford, working jobs they increasingly hate because they can't risk any income disruption, slowly watching their savings evaporate, wondering why they feel so stressed and anxious when they're supposedly living the American dream. Let me tell you what the harsh, uncomfortable truth actually sounds like when you strip away all the real estate marketing propaganda. For probably 70% to 80% of American households, a $500,000 home is not affordable, not sustainably. not without accepting a level of financial precariousness that would have been considered completely reckless and irresponsible just one generation ago. This isn't about personal failure. This isn't about not working hard enough, or not being financially disciplined, or spending too much on coffee and avocado toast. This is about a housing market that has completely, catastrophically disconnected from income reality. Home prices have increased roughly 400% since 1990. Median household income has increased about 180% in that same period. The math doesn't work. It cannot work. It will not work, no matter how much you budget or how many side hustles you pick up. And yet, we keep pretending it does work. We keep telling people that homeownership is essential for building wealth, which is technically true, but completely ignores the part where you have to financially survive the mortgage first. What you can do is understand the actual numbers, so you can make an informed decision based on reality rather than fantasy. Maybe that decision is to keep renting and invest the difference in index funds. Maybe it's to look at a $350,000 house instead, even if it means a longer commute or a smaller yard. Maybe it's to acknowledge that homeownership in your current market simply isn't viable right now. And that's completely okay, because here's what nobody in the real estate industry will ever tell you. There is no prize for buying a house you can't afford. There is no trophy for being house poor. The financial stress of barely making your mortgage payment every single month will completely erase any pride or satisfaction you felt the day you got those keys. So here's my actual advice, stripped of all the feel-good nonsense. If you're looking at a $500,000 house right now, and your household income is anywhere below $140,000, you need to stop. Just stop. You're about to make a financial decision that will dominate and potentially ruin the next decade of your life. I don't care what the mortgage broker says you're approved for. I don't care what your real estate agent says is normal in your market. I don't care that your friends somehow made it work. The numbers are the numbers, and they don't care about your feelings or your Instagram-ready kitchen dreams or your desire to stop renting. Run your real numbers. Factor in all the actual costs. Be brutally honest about your income stability. And if the math doesn't work, walk away. There is no shame in saying, "This doesn't make financial sense for me right now." There is tremendous shame in buying a house that makes you miserable and breaks you financially. The housing market will keep pretending these prices make sense. Banks will keep approving loans that shouldn't exist. Real estate agents will keep telling you it's always a great time to buy. But you don't have to participate in this collective financial insanity just because everyone else is doing it. Sometimes the smartest financial move is recognizing when the game is rigged against you and choosing not to play.